getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows.
Well, hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the SKR Sim Racing League. This is round number 4 this season, coming to you tonight from the St. Petersburg Street Circuit. My name is Ron Maunz. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Charles Boshell. Joshua Wilkie is our producer for tonight's broadcast. Well, Charles, for my first time ever covering a race here at St. Pete, this is going to be an interesting one. GT3s, as is the usual case here in this championship, but a very different race circuit compared to the ones that we've been at so far this season. You know, it's fascinating. You look at the season schedule that we have here in SKR, and it is split almost exactly down the middle. First half, natural terrain, classic road courses. Second half, entirely street circuits.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is obviously one of the newer street circuits on iRacing. I think it's only its second season, being in the simulator. But obviously, this street course is pretty well known for IndyCar racing. It's the season opener every year. They do a lot of support races. Even ran the NASCAR trucks here this season, or this year, I should say. So some new and exciting things there with this course. So yeah, we'll get a good look here at St. Pete. Obviously, kind of a tale of two two circuits with the airstrip there, the landing strip is the the front stretch, and then it becomes a proper street circuit, pretty tight in some of the corners that we're going to have to deal with today. So it's going to be a pretty interesting race here with these GT3 cars.
Yeah, it is certainly going to be a fascinating one and a really intriguing way to start off the second half of this season. Currently in the midst of qualifying right now, where things are just jumping up a little bit. Logan Fulmer is your current provisional pole sitter at the moment. A very good qualifying time from the young American. That is really a half a second clear of Dan Pankos, who's set to join him on the front row right now. Jim Worth is in third with Justin Ruth, our usual dominant man throughout the season, back down there in P4. Leo Le Carpentier is in fifth. Your pole sitter last time out, Road Atlanta, with Chris Barrett and Ryan Fulmer running out your 7 cars currently qualified at the current moment. We'll use this little lull in the action as we switch over to the race session here in a couple of minutes time to take a quick little gander at your championship points, as we're now officially halfway through this season. Here's how it stands right now. Justin Ruth undefeated so far this season. The only blemish on his record is the fact that he didn't grab the pole last time out. Other than that, he has been indomitable throughout this season. Leo Le Carpentier, if he grabbed the race win last time out instead of Justin Ruth, I think would have a really good shot and maybe knocking on his door. However, because of the issues later on in that race, he's currently 127 points back of Ruth there in P2. Chris Barrett is in third, 217 points back of your leader, currently at 903, with Jim Worth in fifth. Logan Fulmer, looking at a good points day here tonight, is in P5. Dan Pankos and Ryan Fulmer complete your points. So still relatively early in this season. We're only at the halfway mark, so still plenty more racing left to cover here, Charles, and still plenty of time left for the field to try and close up that gap to Justin Ruth.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tracks like this that will kind of what we call a wild card track will just kind of jump up and cause issues for championship leaders. It's happened before. It'll happen again, but we'll see what happens tonight as Justin Ruth, not the best qualifying. I think he came in pretty late, so only qualified P4, but Logan Fulmer still rocking that Audi with a half-second gap over the field, and that's saying something. I was watching him in practice, and wasn't all sunshine and roses there for a bit, but I think he's got things calmed down, and it looks like he's got some good pace in that R8, I should say, not RSA, R8.
Yeah, it sounded close enough in my books. Yeah, I'm slightly dyslexic, so everything usually sounds pretty normal to me. But now we can take a look at your starting grid here as we officially click our way over into the race. And I gotta say, brilliant sights around this place. I feel bad for Josh's PC at the moment. Logan Fulmer is your pole sitter, qualifying at a 112.9. Dan Pankos just a tick below a half second. We'll join him on the front row. Jim Worth is going to start this race in third. Next to him will be Justin Ruth. Leo Le Carpentier will be in fifth. Chris Barrett will be alongside, completing row number 3 there in sixth. And Ryan Fulmer will be your final starter here tonight. The field led by a Fulmer. Shotgun of the pack is a Fulmer here as well. I gotta say, talking about the championship points, more specifically how things have been so far this season for Justin Ruth, you brought up a few moments ago, Charles, how street circuits can be a pretty big thorn in the side to anyone looking to have a smooth run through a season. It seems like that may be the case here tonight. He's been very quick throughout this season, but if qualifying is anything to go by, this night may be a little bit harder than some past nights.
Yeah, it may. You're absolutely right, Ron. It may be. As we'll see, though. Obviously, we got a 20-minute race coming up here, and tragedy could strike at any time to anyone. Once we get out of that long straightaway, you've only got the little short straight through 3 and 4. Everything else is pretty tight through here. You see the cornering here, especially in those corners 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a right, left, left, right double chicane, and it is very, very tight running through there. And then immediately after that, a double right hander through 8 and 9. And you see right here, you're talking about 2.5 lanes of normal driving traffic here as these cars are coming down. And if you're trying to run this at 140 miles an hour and cut these apexes, it doesn't take much to ruin your day.
Yeah, but this track is a bit of a menace to the shock of some. This track has actually been around in some form or fashion since the 1980s. Took a brief hiatus during the 90s, came back as the opening race of the 2003 Champ Car season back in 2003, a race which was so exciting when I made my own video about it way back in the summer of 2023. I was so bored that I decided that tasing myself would be a better alternative than watching the rest of the race, but that became an IndyCar race starting in 2005 and has remained a part of the schedule ever since. Now as part of SKR for round number 4 as we wait for that green flag to come out in a very disorganized start. Green flag flies and the drivers are on their way. Heading down into turn number 1, Leo Le Carpentier trying to get some moves done there in that red, white, and blue Ferrari. Contact made as they head their way through the turn. Big trouble as they head their way off through the first apex. Le Carpentier already spun before he even got up and rolling here in this race. Ended last week's run at Road Atlanta with unfortunate circumstances. Goes on once again here as we have more trouble heading our way down that small little short chute, heading our way off through the tight twisties.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get a replay here as we were watching these. I believe that is Fulmer in front and just loses the car. As I think that may have been Jim Worth that just worked his way around, but those Williams Martini Porsches not necessarily having the best of starts here tonight.
Yeah, it's looking like some pretty bad handling in those race cars already. We saw the unfortunate moment there for Worth. Got involved in that incident heading down to turn number 1. Even with the crash for Ryan Fulmer, Leo Le Carpentier is still down there in 7th. Has a lot of time to try and make up. It's music to the ears for Justin Ruth, who just saw his main championship rival run into troubles. However, the front of the pack is a little bit spread out right now. Logan Fulmer ends that first lap in the race lead with a margin clear of a second and a half between he and Dan Pancos. Fulmer in that Audi, really allowing it to make it work as you can see trouble there for the Porsche of Dan Pancos. Actually clipped the wall on the exit of the turn. He's able to bounce back. No further incident there. However, losing out on more time to Fulmer and allowing Justin Ruth to get a bit more of a smell of the exhaust fumes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was once again, as I said, we saw Pancos there kind of jump off the wall. Oh, and more trouble there. I believe that was Jim Worth around as those Porsches are a little ill handling here. And as a matter of fact, I was about to mention 8 and 9. I was watching, as I said, I was watching Logan Fulmer in practice, and that was the 2 corners that were causing him the most fits. And that was just contact there between the 60 and the 35, unfortunately, there, or 33, excuse me. So unfortunate for them as those cars. Good thing is no damage turns off, so it repairs itself and you can get back out. But it's a couple seconds delay and you lose some time, obviously. And then, oh, and there we go around. There's the Audi around. That's exactly what I saw him do during practice. Oh, no, and that was Justin Ruth just barreling in, coming in with a head of steam and nowhere for him to go.
As we take a look to see what went down here, Dan Pancos just trying to get comfortable around this racetrack as it's totally blind through there. Very, very lucky to avoid piling into the side of that Audi that was spun around directly up in front of him. The tricky part about this place here at St. Pete, Charles, is despite the fact it's been a part of the IndyCar schedule yearly since 2005, it's a track that really has no representation in sim racing until it came around here on iRacing. I don't even think there was a mod for it in Assetto Corsa. Nobody really knows exactly how to drive around this place. They know what the track is. They know what it can produce. But actually getting around here is very tricky. As you can see, Justin Ruth, nowhere that he could have gone, and more drivers piling in right behind. That turn with the trees and the concrete barriers on the inside, blind with a capital B.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was what I was going to, as I was saying earlier, that was where I saw Fulmer with the biggest struggle for that Audi was in through 8 and 9, and you see exactly why he did that several times during practice. And it came back to bite him. So he's down to P2, but he's not out of it yet. He's starting to close that gap down to Pancos. Obviously, we saw in qualifying, he's got some good pace. He's just going to keep that car headed in the proper direction. And that may have been his one attempt for the Audi to try and kill him tonight. So maybe the rest of this race is very smooth for him. He can get up there and battle for the overall win.
Yeah, still a long way left to go in this race. We haven't even gotten a quarter of the way through it, but certainly it is advantage Dan Pancoast at the current moment as we ride on board with Logan Fulmer heading his way through the back half of the racetrack as the speed starts to build up. Get closer to the airport section of this racetrack, and although this racetrack still is unique in the world of motorsports, especially here in the States, street tracks that are more or less half street circuit and half purpose built have been around the block before. We think about airport circuits, we think of the old Edmonton track that IndyCar used to race at. We think of Cleveland, another former IndyCar racetrack. We think of Naval Base Coronado that we just saw host the NASCAR action a couple of weeks ago, and will play host the next round of the American Muscle Series here on Slow Motion Broadcasting in a little under a week's time. You think of other tracks that are kind of mostly streets, but also have their own purpose-built sections. It's a newer track on iRacing, one that is another one that we'll be seeing here on Slow Motion Broadcasting in the not-too-distant future, Adelaide. That track, the Grand Prix pits area, was actually, I believe, an old horse racing track. I think it still may be, but there's part of it that's purpose-built, another part that's mainly just streets. It is not unusual to see racetracks that are built like this, but it is still a very interesting ride either way, just because of the fact that you're going from one completely different world into another. Some racetracks, it feels like you're on a completely different racetrack entirely.
Yeah. And yet Adelaide, I think, is maybe even a little tighter than what we're seeing here at St. Pete. It just feels like a much faster track, I believe, than what we're dealing with here. Coronado, I think there's a couple of straightaways there that I don't have to turn sideways to walk between the cars as they were rolling down through on their pit runs or their yellow flag runs there, and it's just very, very touchy. But yeah, it's you reminded me. I actually watched a video a few days ago. It just kind of popped up on my YouTube feed of a race at Cleveland Airport, and I was like, okay, that was just very bizarre how they had that set up, and it was strictly a airport track. They put some cones out, says they go between the cones here, and that's a corner, and it was it's not quite what we're used to seeing nowadays.
Hey, as an old autocrosser, that makes full sense to me, but it definitely is odd in racetrack form. That track, Cleveland, odd to think about the fact that it was around from, I believe, 1984 was the first time they ran there at the Cleveland Airport, all the way through until 2007, and the only reason they really stopped was just because of the IndyCar merger when Champ Car finally went the way of the Dodo Bird. But as we move away from the racing circuit history, trust me in motorsports history, that can be a hours-long podcast every single hour for the rest of my life. We jump to this little battle here. It's a Ferrari mutiny, what we've got going on right now. Justin Ruth running out there on the racetrack there in P3, and Leo Le Carpentier slotted in fourth. Now, I will provide a quick correction to ourselves. We've been talking about Justin Ruth and what sort of pace he may have here in this race, and seeing him qualify there in fourth. The man himself from SKR, Gerald Streets, is actually driving in place of Justin here tonight in that Ferrari. So your driving's been fantastic, mate. No need to worry. It's been a good drive there, and I was wondering. I was looking at that Ferrari. I was like, wait a minute. I finally put two and two together and didn't get fish.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would have thought that my next thought would have been that I did not said that hey, Justin Ruth switched cars. He's been running the BMW all season, and now all of a sudden he's in the Ferrari. But you see Le Carpentier making his way through to move back up into P3 as he's going to have a nice battle here with Streets, trying to hang on and keep Justin's points alive here for the night. As I'm looking up, and Logan Fulmer starting to put on a little bit of a charge on Pancoast again, bringing that gap down to around 3 seconds. So he is starting to click off a tenth or two here and there. but with about half the race gone, he's going to have to start picking that pace up just a bit.
Yeah, pick up the tempo as we go throughout the rest of this event here. Getting close to that halfway mark right now, and seeing how things may potentially roll here. But I know one thing for sure, Gerald Streets there in place of Justin Ruth has been doing a good job. I was thinking about those Ferraris, and just their interesting ride in iRacing over the past couple of years. It still feels like a new car to me. I remember when they brought it out back in 2023, I was covering a GT3 league over on another network, which was a network where I got my broadcasting start at many moons ago. And I remember when that car was brought out, me and my co-commentator were just in awe as to the way it looked, the way it sounded. That was still when we had that old McLaren NP412C, a car that was actually brought into iRacing when I was in second grade. That car had been around for forever and a day. But when they finally released it, that was a glorious occasion. That is a brilliant car. It's a brilliant move attempted here by Jim Worth, trying to get down the inside of Chris Barrett. That looked like a dive. I don't think that was going to work.
No, not quite enough there to get that move done. But you did definitely see he's putting the pressure on Chris Barrett there in the lone Mercedes here tonight. As looks like we've got some other drivers. Trying some new equipment, which is fun. It's a good time to do it. You're out here trying to learn and get a little better in these cars. Why not drive a few different ones? You don't have to stick with one until you find one you like. Then you can get serious with it. So it's always good to do some experimentation. I don't think we're at a point that any of these drivers and all right, what's the meta car for this race this week? I don't think that's going to happen. So it's not like the big events where you've got half the field running the same car because it's supposed to be the best one, and then inevitably somebody in a different car wins.
This past weekend I was covering a Spot 24 event. It was not the one on the iRacing channel. Did that last year, and those iRacing shows are fun. But I find it a bit more enjoyable being on the shows where I can truly let my hair down. And on that broadcast, just having to constantly talk about BOP and everything of the sorts, it does get to the point where it is a little bit tiring talking about balance of performance and what car may be the best, what car may be the worst for insert racetrack here, especially for a track like Spa where it's always big. Doubly so to have to do that between the hours of about, I think it was, contact there with Chris Barrett as he headed his way through the back half of the racetrack. And more contact there on the exit of the turn as well. Jim Ruth then try and get a move done on him here very soon. I was just going to say, talking about BOP between the hours of midnight and 4 o'clock in the morning is not my idea of a fun time. So happy that these drivers are just getting their bearings straight, trying to figure out what car suits their driving style the best, because forget singular pace and singular performance. What can make the biggest difference is a driver's comfort level. If they prefer the way a McLaren or Ferrari drives to the lumpier BMWs and Mustangs, hey, that's all that matters at the end of the day. You got to be comfortable out there on the racetrack if you want to do your best. If you're not comfortable, you're not going to be able to get the good performance. Doesn't matter if you have a rocket ship underneath you, you're still going to struggle.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's comfort is the prime thing there. You have to be comfortable racing the car. You know how it handles, and that just goes with practice and time, right? You just log laps in a car. You kind of know how it's going to react. You know what happens. Maybe if you run a little deep, if you carry too much speed in the corner, you know how to recover the car successfully. And that just comes with learning a car. But at the stage that we're here with these drivers, it's good to go in and pick a different car here and there and just say, hey, all right, let's see how this one feels. Is this going to make this any better? And then you'll know within probably 10 or 12 laps whether or not you're going to be able to get along with it, because these cars all have a pretty spicy personality. They like doing certain things a certain way. Just like drivers do, and if you're not compatible with the car, you will find it out fairly quickly. Trying
to figure out what type of race car works for you. It's almost like, finding a roommate in college or something
Yeah.
like that, being like, okay, yeah, I need to figure out who meshes well with me. I say this as somebody, oh, there's trouble there for Pancos. That's going to allow Logan Fulmer back up into the top spot. Trouble for him. Got sideways as he headed his way through the Titan Twisties. That's going to cost him dearly. And now, with 6 minutes left to go, swap of the lead, your pole sitter of Logan Fulmer is back out in front. And it was an unforced error for Pancos. Let's see. Clipped too much of that curb, and loses control over the paint.
Yeah, that started about 2 corners before that as he just clipped the curb, and you see the car just unsettle, just kind of bounce a little bit as the Porsche does from time to time. And he was fighting that through the end of that curve, through the next curve, and finally just couldn't get it wrangled and spun the car into the wall, but a quick recovery. So he is already back on the back of Fulmer here, looking to the inside to make a move. And I don't think he's going to pull the trigger just yet. He's just going to hug him tight and put a little pressure on the youngster there in first place.
And as that's been going on, I believe there's been trouble for Streets out there in the 07 machine. He's dropped down like an anvil push out of a helicopter. Currently running in 6th right now. We'll take a quick little gander to see exactly what went down. Had Leo Le Carpentier right up in front, heading off through the final turn, and a big impact there into the wall. Going to find the outside tire bundle there as well. Usually whenever you have trouble through that section, it's going to end in tears, as what in the world has gone down here up at the front. Leo Le Carpentier has taken the race lead. Dan Pancos is still in 2nd, and Logan Fulmer is out of contention in the wall. Let's see. Oh, Pancos trying to go for the dive off through the back half of the racetrack and through the shade. All of them going to pile in, and that's going to allow Le Carpentier to become your 3rd separate race leader over the past 3 laps.
Yeah, I thought it might have been Fulmer again with that turn 8 corner, just not be able to handle it. But no, this was just an overly aggressive dive there by the 35 into the corner. He had the nose in, but I don't necessarily know I would consider that an overlap or not if we're going to judge. And side by side there with Le Carpentier and Pancos there, as Pancos jumps back into the lead, and that Ferrari has got his lights flashing, which normally means, hey, I didn't like that. So now he's going to charge back in, try and make that run down into turn 4.
And so the fight is still very much on for your race lead. Fight is on for your race win after all. And Pancos looking to try and drive away as he battles not just Le Carpentier, but this racetrack as well. Pancos, he's been strong throughout this race, but he's been up and down the field like Otis Elevator. Same can be said about Le Carpentier as well. Though both of these drivers have had their setbacks so far here tonight. So the fact they find themselves battling it out as we move off into the sunset here at Sebring. It is going to be a grandstand finish to this race. Le Carpentier closes up the gap to about a half a second, closes it up even more, trying to pull off an old NASCAR style bump and run through the final hairpin. Pancos, I think, is still trying to grapple with this racetrack. You can just sense that sense of uncomfortability. It's like sitting on a cold toilet seat. You can just tell he's not really comfortable running around this racetrack, trying to find his way around. Like Carpentier broke a little bit early. Pancos broke a little bit late. Oh, they nearly merged into one on the exit of the turn. This is going to get real dicey here. Like Carpentier looking to pounce on the wounded car of Pancos. Not just the wounded car. It's not the car that's a problem. No damage in the series. It's the driver and the driver's confidence. He's still dicing his way around this racetrack, trying to go around this place as daintily as he possibly can. There's trouble here in the fight for 3rd. Jim Worth pulling off the old argy-bargy maneuver, trying to get past there. Chris Barrett gets sent down there off the track. We take a look to see this move from Worth.
Well, down to the inside here, turn 4, and just runs out of room, which those corners are very tight there. But I think he was well over in a good position for the overtake, had the preferred line on the corner, and they just made contact, and that's just part of racing. Unfortunately, I don't think that's we get some bumping there coming around the final corner and down the front straight is Le Carpentier really late on the brakes and just telling Dan that he's back there waiting to attack.
Yeah, someone call up Olivia Newton-John because things are getting physical right now. This is dicey as we're now on the final lap of this race. One more lap of the St. Petersburg Street Circuit left to go. Logan Fulmer, who's had an odd race in his own right, started from the pole, ran into troubles, then was able to bounce back, grab the race lead once again, but then trouble striking him once more. He's looking for P4. Let's see if he'll be able to get it done in the final 3/4 of this lap. Dan Pancos and Le Carpentier still very close up for your top spots. They're both a little bit wiggly, but I think Le Carpentier may have run into some trouble. That gap is growing as they head their way down the final flat out blast of this lap. As long as Dan Pancos can get through this final few turns, this may be the win in hand for the driver of the number 35 car. Edges his way into the hairpin through the braking zone, just needs to nail one more apex and the checkered flag is his. And what a race that we have had here tonight at St. Petersburg, full of twists and turns, and not just the ones that they're in asphalt form. Dan Pancos, though, is going to become the first driver outside of our dominant man throughout this season to finally score a victory. The Justin Ruth dominance is over. Le Carpentier comes home in second. Jim Worth will round out your podium in third. Logan Fulmer was able to get it there at the very end as there was trouble for Barrett on that last lap. He loses out on not just fourth to Fulmer, but fifth to Gerald Streets. Barrett, as I just said, ends up in P6 with Ryan Fulmer riding out to your field as we take a look to see what went down. This was a side-by-side racing a little bit earlier on there with Chris Barrett. That's what sent him off into the clutches of Leo Le Carpentier late here in this race. I think there may have been some sort of unforced error as we got towards the end, as here you can see it briefly fanned out to side-by-side racing, but it was a little bit later on there on the last lap where things went awry. But either way, Dan Pancos getting his first win of this season in dramatic fashion.
Yeah, great racing out there tonight. Obviously, with Justin Ruth not there, really strong battle. Had three leaders here tonight. Fulmer, obviously, young Logan, probably deserved higher than P4, but P4 is what he got. It's not always what you deserve. But had a good run, strong, and I think that is maybe a little bit of displeasure there after the race is over. With between like Carpentier and Pancos there, as Pancos gets the victory. So great racing tonight. Yeah, that's probably just some a voice of displeasure, and they'll shake that off and come back again next week. So that is part of it. And I will say, also hello to those fine folks at Otis Elevators, who's where my late stepfather worked for about 20 something years. So odd that you brought that up.
You know, it's funny actually. My dad back in the 90s was heavily involved in the stock market, and once heard from the broker that he used to go to. It was just somebody working there that said, "Yeah, how's the market? Up and down like Otis Elevator." So I've just picked that up as my broadcast vernacular. So I mean, hey, it sounds a little bit snazzy, but but actually, I'll complete the joke that I was going to say before we saw things really go crazy in this race. Saw the incident for Dan Pancos, so I stopped on this bit. I was gonna say, when I made the comparison about finding a GT3 car that works for you, like trying to find a college dorm roommate, I say this as somebody who does not go to college and probably will not go to college. Although with my broadcasting track record, I probably would be able to go to Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Clown College on a scholarship, no less. But we'll take a look at your race results here at the end of a quite dramatic and very exciting race here in Florida. And it's Dan Pancos getting the victory. Leo Le Carpentier, who started that race off backwards as he headed his way out of turn number one, going to end up in second. Good fight back there as we got through at this race. Jim Worth will be in third. Logan Fulmer comes across the stripe fourth for your pole sitter. Gerald Streets driving in for Justin Ruth will be in P5 with Chris Barrett in sixth and Ryan Fulmer completing your field. I gotta say, well done to Fulmer for being a little bit close here at the end of this race. When we started off the season a couple of weeks ago at Watkins Glen, he was still trying to find his limit. I believe he has now switched to the Porsche. I can't remember exactly what car. He may have been in the BMW. in that opening race of the season,
Yeah.
but he's been meshing well with that Porsche ever since he got into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, find the car that suits you and drive that, and maybe he's found something in the Porsche. But once again, this is what I like to see. We get these new leagues here, and we get drivers involved. It's just so much fun to watch driver development and how much better they get after running a few hours over the course of a season, to just how much they improve over that time. And it's just fun to watch. And you looked at the gaps, and they weren't really very close, but that didn't really tell the story. There's some really close racing out there tonight. And a lot of these drivers, once again, challenging half the field led at some point in time during the race. So, hats off to these guys for putting in the work and getting better.
Yeah, and this is certainly a good sign of things to come as we go into the final 2 rounds of this championship. Man, already into the final third. Time flies when you're having fun. We've got Long Beach and Le Mans to round off this season. Long Beach, for some reason, I as a child always thought it was down in Florida. It's not. It's in California, right by LA. So I could not be farther apart, both geographically and otherwise there. But we've got Long Beach in 1 week's time. That's always a bit of a menace. And Le Mans to round off the season. Yeah. So 2 very different ends of the motorsports spectrum, both technically street circuits, although the other point that we were raising about half street circuits, half purpose built, that's pretty much what Le Mans is. That is going to be a really fascinating final 2 races of the season, Charles, ain't it?
Yeah, it's the complete ends of the spectrum. Long Beach being probably the tightest street circuit you're going to be on any given time. It is just a very, very tight course. Every corner fraught with danger. The little hidden things that we'll talk about there with, not just only the final hairpin, but how you have to take the entry into turn 1 to prevent yourself from getting a slowdown, to Le Mans, which is just basically breakneck speed for the entire 20 minutes. It's going to be a very, very fast race. And you still, even though you're running just at full tilt for 75% of the lap, there's still some pre-technical sections that you have to contend with there.
Yeah, of course, folks, those tuning into this series for the very first time, wondering about SKR Sim Racing and what we're all about here in this championship. SKR is not just an iRacing league, it's a community, and it's a sim racing center as well, just a stone's throw away from the city of Philadelphia out there in Lansdale. It has high-end pro-grade motion simulators, and it's really a must-visit for fans of speed who want to experience the thrill of driving, all from the comfort of an indoor studio space. Trust me, I think it hit about 100 degrees here in the city of Philadelphia today, so you'll want to have some air conditioning at the end of it. Located in Lansdale, as I said a few moments ago, just a short walk away from the nearest SEPTA Regional Rail Station. You can learn more about taking a trip to get taste of speed at skrsimracing.com. I want to thank SKR and everyone involved in this series for making it all possible. But folks, we've got a lot of racing action for you here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, virtually day in and day out. Here's the upcoming schedule. I will say, extra little alteration to some stuff. Later on tonight, you'll be able to see the latest round of the Sim Racers Group Formula 3 Championship. That is going to be a barn burner of a race later on tonight. We talked about a bit earlier on, Spa-Francorchamps will be the next round of that championship. Coming up a little after this broadcast wraps, that's at 10 p.m. Eastern time, for those looking to stay up a little bit late. And then tomorrow, we'll be able to bring you the first round of the Rikmatech GT3 Challenge presented by the SCCA Foundation. Round number 1 of the season will take place at Road America, and we hope to see you all there. The latest round of the Right Esports Summer Shootout Series will be at VIR, circling through their rotating cast of characters and rotating cast of cars. And then we get the week up and rolling. Our regular old double feature on Tuesdays. We'll be able to bring you the third round of the American Muscle Series. That'll be at Naval Base Coronado on the San Diego Street Circuit, and the Sim Racers Group F4 Championship will be at Watkins Glen Glen. SKR Sim Racing will be back here on Slow Motion Broadcasting on Wednesday, July the 22nd at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. That'll be at Long Beach, along with the SRG F3 broadcast later on that night. And then after that, on Tuesday, July the 23rd, we'll be able to bring you the opening race of the Extreme Motorsports Touring Car Championship. So a lot of actions to look forward to here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Gives you a very good reason to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action, either from this championship or any of the others that we have broadcasted here on SMB. If you want to see what we have in store every single week, how about you take a look at some of the YouTube shorts as well, get a taste of the action, all with the swipe of a finger. And if you want to know what Slow Motion Broadcasting can do for your iRacing special event or league, how about you join the Slow Motion Broadcasting Discord server and get in touch with us to make your dream a reality. But after this broadcast here tonight for round number 4 of the SKR Sim Racing League here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, Charles Boshell joining me in the commentary booth, and Josh Wilkie working on the cameras and the graphics in the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for tuning into the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting tonight, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.